Hare Krishna. So we should start the class, even though nobody's here in the temple, but people may be watching online. So we'll read English now. And we have one devotee is here. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the Supreme Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes. The spiritual place of transcendental pastimes of Krishna is portrayed in the second verse. The super-excellent station of Krishna, which is known as Gokula, has thousands of petals and a corolla like that of a lotus, sprouted from a part of his infinitary aspect, the whirl of the leaves being the actual abode of Krishna. The whirl of that transcendental lotus is the realm wherein dwells Krishna. It is a hexagonal figure, the abode of the indwelling, predominated and predominating aspect of the Absolute. Like a diamond, the central supporting figure of self-luminous Krishna stands as the transcendental source of all potencies. The holy name, consisting of 18 transcendental letters, is manifested in a hexagonal figure with sixfold divisions. The whirl of that eternal realm, Gokula, is the hexagonal abode of Krishna. Its petals are the abodes of gopis, who are part and parcel of Krishna, to whom they are most lovingly devoted and are similar in essence. The petals shine beautifully like so many walls. The extended leaves of that lotus are the garden-like Dhamma, that is, spiritual abode of Sri Radhika, the most beloved of Krishna. The surrounding external plane of Gokula is described in this verse. There is a mysterious quadrangular place named Shwetadvipa surrounding the outskirts of Gokula. Shwetadvipa is divided into 4 parts on all sides. The abode of Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha are separately located in each of these 4 parts. These 4 divided abodes are enveloped by the fourfold human requirements, such as piety, wealth, passion, and liberation, as also by the 4 Vedas, namely Rig, Sama, Yajur, and Atharva, which deal with the mantra and which are the bases of achievements of the fourfold mundane requirements. 10 tridents are fixed in the 10 directions, including the zenith and nadir. The 8 directions are decorated with the 8 jewels of Mahapadma, Padma, Shankha, Makara, Kachapa, Mukunda, Kunda, and Nila. There are 10 protectors, Dikpalas, of the 10 directions in the form of mantra. The associates of the hues of blue, yellow, red, and white, and the extraordinary potencies bearing the names of Vimala, etc., shine on all sides.
The Lord of Gokula is the transcendental Supreme Godhead, the own self of eternal ecstasies. He is the superior of all superiors and is busily engaged in the enjoyments of the transcendental realm and has no association with his mundane potency. Krishna never consorts with his illusory energy. Still her connection is not entirely cut off from the absolute truth. When he intends to create the material world, the amorphous pastime, in which he engages by consorting with his own spiritual Chit potency Rama, by casting his glance at the deluding energy in the shape of sending his time energy, is an auxiliary activity. The secondary process of association with Maya is described. Rama Devi, the spiritual Chit potency, beloved consort of the Supreme Lord, is the regulatrix of all entities. The divine plenary portion of Krishna creates the mundane world. At creation there appears a divine halo of the nature of his own subjective portion, Swamsa. This halo is divine Sambhu, the masculine symbol or manifested emblem of the Supreme Lord. This halo is the dim twilight reflection of the Supreme Eternal Effulgence. This masculine symbol is the subjective portion of divinity, who functions as progenitor of the mundane world, subject to the supreme regulatrix Niyati. The conceiving potency in regard to mundane creation makes her appearance out of the supreme regulatrix. She is Maya, the limited, non-absolute apara potency, the symbol of mundane feminine productivity. The intercourse of these two brings forth the faculty of perverted cognition, the reflection of the seed of the procreative desire of the Supreme Lord. All offspring of the consort of the great Lord, Maheshwara, of this mundane world, are of the nature of the embodiment of the mundane masculine and feminine generative organs. The person embodying the material causal principle, namely the great Lord of this mundane world, Maheshwara, Sambhu, in the form of the male generating organ, is joined to his female consort, the limited energy Maya, as the efficient causal principle. The Lord of the world, Mahavishnu, is manifest in him by his subjective portion in the form of his glands.
The Lord of the mundane world, Mahavishnu, possesses thousands of heads, eyes, hands. He is the source of thousands of avatars in his thousands of subjective portions. He is the creator of thousands of individual souls. The same Mahavishnu is spoken of by the name of Narayana in this mundane world. From that eternal person has sprung the vast expanse of water of the spiritual causal ocean. The subjective portion of Sankarshan, who abides in the Paravyoma, the above Supreme Purusha with thousands of subjective portions, reposes in the state of divine sleep, Yoga Nidra, in the waters of the spiritual causal ocean. The spiritual seeds of Sankarshana, existing in the pores of skin of Mahavishnu, are born as so many golden sperms. These sperms are covered with five great elements. The same Mahavishnu entered into each universe as his own separate subjective portions. The divine portions that entered into each universe are possessed of his majestic extension. That is, they are the eternal universal soul, Mahavishnu, possessing thousands of heads. The same Mahavishnu created Vishnu from his left limb, Brahma, the first progenitor of beings, from his right limb, and from the space between his two eyebrows, Shambhu, the divine masculine manifested halo.
The function of Shambhu in relation to Jivas is that this universe, enshrining the mundane egotistic principle, has originated from Shambhu. Thereupon, the same great personal Godhead, assuming the threefold forms of Vishnu, Prajapati and Shambhu, entering into the mundane universe, placed the pastimes of preservation, creation and destruction of this world. This pastime is contained in the mundane world. Hence, it being perverted, the Supreme Lord, identical with Mahavishnu, prefers to consort with the goddess Yoganidra, the constituent of his own Chit potency. Full of the ecstatic trance of eternal bliss appertaining to his own divine personality. When Vishnu, lying in the ocean of milk, wills to create this universe, a golden lotus springs from his navel pit. The golden lotus, with its stem, is the abode of Brahma, representing Brahmaloka or Satyaloka. Before their conglomeration, the primary elements in their nascent state remained originally separate entities. Non-application of the conglomerating process is the cause of their separate existence. Divine Mahavishnu, primal Godhead, through association with his own spiritual Chit potency, moved Maya, and by the application of the conglomerating principle, created those different entities in their state of cooperation. And after that, he himself consorted with Yoganidra by way of his eternal dalliance with his spiritual Chit potency. By conglomerating all those separate entities, he manifested the innumerable mundane universes and himself entered into the inmost recess of every extended conglomerate, Virata Vigraha. At that time, those jivas who had lain dormant during the cataclysm were awakened.
The same jiva is eternal and is for eternity, and without a beginning, joined to the Supreme Lord by the tie of an eternal kinship. He is transcendental spiritual potency. The divine lotus which springs from the navel pit of Vishnu is in every way related by the spiritual tie with all souls and is the origin of four-faced Brahma versed in the four Vedas. On coming out of the lotus, Brahma, being guided by the divine potency, turned his mind to the act of creation under the impulse of previous impressions. But he could see nothing but darkness in every direction. Then the goddess of learning, Saraswati, the divine consort of the Supreme Lord, said thus to Brahma, who saw nothing but gloom in all directions. O Brahma, this mantra, namely Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha, will assuredly fulfill your heart's desire. O Brahma, do thou practice spiritual association by means of this mantra, then all your desires will be fulfilled.
Brahma, being desirous of satisfying Govinda, practiced the cultural acts of Krishna in Golok, Lord of Shwetadvipa, for a long time. His meditation ran thus. There exists a divine lotus of 1,000 petals, augmented by millions of filaments in the transcendental land of Goloka. On its wall there exists a great divine throne on which is seated Sri Krishna, the form of eternal effulgence of transcendental bliss, playing on his divine flute, resonant with the divine sound, with his lotus mouth. He is worshipped by his amorous milkmaids with their respective subjective portions and extensions, and also by his external energy, who stays outside, embodying all mundane qualities. Then Gayatri, mother of the Vedas, being made manifest, that is imparted by the divine sound of the flute of Sri Krishna, entered into the lotus mouth of Brahma, born from himself through his 8 ear holes. The lotus-born Brahma, having revealed the Gayatri, sprung from the flute song of Sri Krishna, attained the status of the twice-born, having been initiated by the Supreme Primal Preceptor, Godhead himself. Enlightened by the recollection of that Gayatri, embodying the 3 Vedas, Brahma became acquainted with the expanse of the ocean of truth. Then he worshipped Sri Krishna, the essence of all Vedas, with this hymn. I worship Govinda, the primal Lord, the first progenitor, who is tending the cows, yielding all desires in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or Gopis. I worship Govinda, the primal Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute, with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with head decked with peacock's feather, with the figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids.
I worship Govinda, the primal Lord, around whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers beautiful with the moon lockets, whose 2 hands are adorned with the fluid and jewel ornaments, who always reveal the pastime of love, whose graceful threefold bending from the Shyamsundar is eternally manifest. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is transcendental is full of bliss, through his substantially, and is thus full the most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of the transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged function of all the organ, and eternally says, maintains and manifests the infinite, universal, both spiritual and mundane. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessibly to the Veda, but obtainable by pure, unalloyed devotional of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, is without a beginning, who's from the endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha. Yet he is a personal possessing the beauty of blooming youth. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, only the tip of the toe of whose lotus feet is approached by the yogis who aspire after the transcendental and betake themselves to pranayam by drilling the respiration or by the jnanis who try to find out the differentiated Brahman by the process of elimination of the mundane and extending over thousands of millions of years.
One more?
Okay. He is an undifferentiated entity. There is no distinction between potency and the possessor thereof. In his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remained inspirable. All the universe exists in him, and he is the present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe at one and the same time. Such is primeval Lord whom I adore.
Thank you very much. No, very good.
I adore the same Govinda, the primeval Lord, on whose praise men who are imbued with devotion sing the mantra suktas told by the Vedas, by gaining their appropriate beauty, greatness, thrones, conveyances, and ornaments. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha, resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency, possessed of the 64 artistic activities, in the company of her confidants, Sakhis, embodiments of the extensions of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever blissful spiritual rasa.
Page 74.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Shyamsundara, Krishna himself, with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts, with the eye of devotion tinged with the salve of love. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who manifested himself personally as Krishna and the different avatars in the world, in the forms of Rama, Narsingha, Vamana, etc., as his subjective portions. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose effulgence is the source of the non-differentiated Brahman mentioned in the Upanishads, being differentiated from the infinity of glories of the mundane universe, appears as the indivisible, infinite, limitless truth.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is the absolute substantive principle, being the ultimate entity in the form of the support of all existence, whose external potency embodies the threefold mundane qualities, namely sattva, rajas, and tamas, and diffuses the Vedic knowledge regarding the mundane world. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose glory ever triumphantly dominates the mundane world by the activity of his own pastimes, being reflected in the mind of recollecting souls as the transcendental entity of ever blissful cognitive rasa. Lowest of all is located Devi Dhamma, mundane world, Next above it is Mahesh Dhama, abode of Mahesh. Above Mahesh Dhama is placed Hari Dhama, abode of Hari. And above them all is located Krishna's own realm named Goloka. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who has allotted to their respective authorities to the rulers of those graded realms. The external potency, Maya, who is of the nature of the shadow of the Chit potency, is worshipped by all people as Durga, the creating, preserving, and destroying agency of this mundane world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in accordance with whose will Durga conducts herself. Just as milk is transformed into curd by the action of acids, but yet the effect curd is neither same as nor different from its cause, namely milk, so I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom the state of Shambhu is a transformation for the performance of the work of destruction.
The light of one candle being communicated to other candles, although it burns separately in them, is the same in its quality. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who exhibits himself equally in the same mobile manner in his various manifestations. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, who, assuming his own great subjective form, who bears the name of Shesha, replete with all accommodating potency, and reposing in the causal ocean with the infinity of the worlds in the pore of his hair, enjoys creative sleep, Yoga Nidra. Brahma and other lords of the mundane worlds, appearing from the pores of hair of Mahavishnu, remain alive as long as the duration of one exhalation of the latter, Mahavishnu. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whose subjective personality Mahavishnu is the portion of portion. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, from whom the separated subjective portion, Brahma, receives his power for the regulation of the mundane world, just as the sun manifests some portion of his own light in all the effulgent gems that bear the names of Surya Kanta, etc. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, whose lotus feet are always held by Ganesha upon the pair of tumuli protruding from his elephant head in order to obtain power for his function of destroying all the obstacles on the path of progress of the three worlds.
The three worlds are composed of the 9 elements, namely fire, earth, ether, water, air, direction, time, soul and mind. I adore the primal Lord Govinda, from whom they originate, in whom they exist, and in whom they enter at the time of the universal cataclysm. The sun, who is king of all planets, full of infinite effulgence, the image of the good soul, is as the eye of this world. I adore the primal Lord Govinda, in pursuance of whose order the sun performs his journey, mounting the wheel of time. I adore the primal Lord Govinda, by whose conferred power are maintained the manifested potencies that are found to exist of all virtues, all vices, the Vedas, the finances, and all jivas, from Brahma to the meanest insect. I adore the primal Lord Govinda, who burns up to their roots of fruitive activities of those who are imbued with devotion and impartiality, impartially ordains for each the due enjoyment of the fruits of one's activities. Of all those who walk in the path of work in accordance with the chain of their previously performed works, no less in the case of the tiny insect that bears the name of Indragop than in that of Indra, king of the Devas. I adore the primal Lord Govinda, the meditators of whom, by meditating upon him under the sway of wrath, amorous passion, natural friendly love, fear, parental affection, delusion, reverence, and willing service attain to bodily forms befitting the nature of their contemplation.
I worship that transcendental seed known as Svetadipa, where as loving consort the Lakshmis is their unalloyed spiritual essence practice, the amorous service of the Supreme Lord. Krishna is their only lover, where every tree is a transcendental purpose tree, where the soil is a purpose gem, all water is nectar, every world is a song, every gate is a dance, every flute is a favorite attendant. In effluence is full of transcendental bliss, and the supreme spiritual entity are all enjoyable and tasty, where numberless milk cow always emit transcendental ocean of milk, where there is an eternal existence of transcendental time, who is ever present in without past or future, hence is not subject to the quality of passing away even for the space of half a moment. The realm is known as the Goloka only to very few self-realized souls in this world. On hearing these hymns, contain the essence of the truth, the Supreme Lord Krishna said of Brahma, Brahma, if you experience the inclination of creator offspring by being endowed with the real knowledge of the glory of Godhead. Listen, my beloved, from me to the science set forth in the following 5 slokas.
Page 107. No, go on, keep reading. I was just telling him what page we're on.
When the pure spiritual experience is excited by means of cognition and service, bhakti, super excellent unalloyed devotion characterized by love for Godhead is awakened towards Krishna, the beloved of all souls. The highest devotion is attained by slow degrees by the method of constant endeavor for self-realization with the help of spiritual evidence, theistic conduct, and perseverance in the practice. The preliminary practice of devotional sadhana bhakti are conducted to the realization of loving devotion, that then who there is no superior well-being, who goes hand in hand with the attainment of the absolute state of supreme bliss, and who can lead to myself. Abandoning the all meditations performed serve me with faith. The realization will correspond to the nature of one's faith. The people of the world are ceaselessly in pursuance of some idol. By the meditating on me, by means of those deeds, one will obtain devotion characterized by love is the safe of the supreme service.
I'll do the last one. Listen, O Vidhi. I am the seed, that is, the fundamental principle of this world of animate and inanimate objects. I am Pradhana, the substance of matter. I am Prakriti, material cause, and I am Purusha, efficient cause. This fiery energy that belongs specially to the Brahman, that inheres in you, has also been conferred by me. It is by bearing this fiery energy that you regulate this phenomenal world of animate and inanimate objects. So now we're going to chant the Sanskrit of the Brahma Samhita. We'll stand up before the deities and chant it for their pleasure. And you can see also, if you read the Roman alphabet, it's easier. You can, in the beginning of this blue book, we have the whole, all the mantras in Sanskrit. Some people prefer, if they want to read the Devanagari alphabet, they can go through the book, but it's harder because you have to skip pages for the purports. Jai Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan. Ishvarat Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govindaha Sarvakarana Karanam Sahasrapatra Kamalang Gokulakyang Mahatpatam Tatkarnikarang Tadhama Tadanantang Shasambhavam Karnikarang Mahadyantrang Shatkonang Vajrakilakam Sharanga Shatpadisthanam Prakritya Purushena Cha Premananda Mahananda Rasena Vastitam Hiyat Jyoti Rupena Manuna Kama Bijena Sangatam Tatkinjalkang Tadangshanang Tatpatrani Shriyamapi Chaturasrang Tatparitaha Shweta Dvipakyam Adbhutam Chaturasrang Chaturmurtes Chaturdhama Chatushkritam Chaturbhir Hetubhir Purushartascha Chaturbhir Hetubhir Britam Shulayar Dashabhir Anadham Urdvadho Dikvidikshwapi Ashtabhir Nidhibhir Jushtam Ashtibhik Siddhibhis Tata Manurupas Chatashabhir Dikpalaik Parito Vritam Shamair Goraischa Raktaischa Shukraischa Parshadarshabhahi Shobhitang Shaktibhis Tabhir Adbhutabhik Samantataha Evang Jyotirmayo Devaha Sadanandak Parat Paraha Atma Ramasya Tasyasti Prakrityana Samagamaha Mayaya Ramamanasya Navyogasthaya Saha Atmana Ramaya Reme Tyaktakalang Shisrikshaya Niyatik Sarama Devi Tatpriya Tatvashang Tada Tallingang Bhagavan Shambhur Jyoti Rupak Sanatanaha Yayonik Sapara Shaktihi Kamo Bijang Mahadtarehe Linga Yoniatmika Jata Ima Maheshwari Prajaha Shaktiman Purushak Soyang Linga Rupi Maheshwaraha Tasmin Avirabhu Linge Mahavishnur Jagatpatihi Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha Sahasrakshak Sahasrapar Sahasrabahur Vishvatma Sahasrangshak Sahasrasuhu Narayanaksa Bhagavan Apastasmat Sanatanat Avirasit Karanarno Nidhik Sankarshanatmakaha Yoga Nidrangatas Tasmin Sahasrangshak Swayang Mahan Tadroma Bilajaleshu Bijang Sankarshanasya Cha Haiman Yandani Jatani Mahabhuta Vritani Tu Pratyandam Evam Ekang Shad Vishati Swayam Sahasra Murdha Vishvatma Mahavishnu Sanatanaha Vamangat Asrijat Vishnung Dakshinangat Prajapatim Jyotirlingamayang Shambhung Kurchadesharavasrijat Ahankaratmakang Vishwang Tasmaretad Vyajayata Atatais Tribidhair Vaishayar Leelam Udvahata Kila Yoga Nidra Bhagavati Tasya Shri Riva Sangata Sisrikshayang Tato Nabhes Tasya Padmang Viniryayo Tannalang Himanalinam Brahmano Lokamadbhutam Tatpani Purvarudhani Karanani Parasparam Samabaya Prayogachcha Vibhinnani Pritak Pritak Chit Shaktya Sajjamanotha Bhagavan Adipurushaha Yojayanmaya Devo Yoga Nidram Kalpayat Yojayitva Tutanyeva Prabhivesha Swayam Guhang Pravishte Tasmingstu Jivatma Pratiputyate Sanityo Nitya Sambandhak Prakritischa Paraivasa Evang Sarvatma Sambandham Nabhyang Padmang Harer Abhut Tatra Brahma Bhavad Bhuyas Chaturvedi Chaturmukhaha Sanjato Bhagavat Shaktya Tatki Kalankilacho Ditaha Sishrikshayang Mating Chakre Purva Sanskara Sanskritaha Dadarsha Kevalang Dvantang Nanyat Kim Api Sarvataha Uvacha Purutas Tasmai Tasya Divya Saraswati Kama Krishnaya Govinda Hey Gopi Jana Ityapi Vallabhaya Priya Vahner Mantrang Te Dasyati Priyam Tapastvang Tapa Etena Tava Siddhir Bhavishyati Ata Tepe Sasuchirang Prinan Govindam Avyayam Shweta Dvipa Pating Krishnam Golokastang Parat Param Prakritya Gunarupinya Rupinya Paryupasitang Sahasradala Sampanne Koti Kinjalka Bringhite Bhumischintamanis Tatra Karnikare Mahasane Samasinang Chidanandang Jyoti Rupang Sanatanam Shabda Brahma Mayang Venum Vadayantang Mukambuje Vilasini Ganavritang Swairang Shairabhishtutam Atha Venu Ninadasya Traimurti Maigatihi Spuranti Praviveshashu Mukhabjani Swayambhuvaha Gayatring Gayatas Tasmad Adhikatya Sarojajaha Sanskritas-chadi gununa dvijatam agamattataha Traya prabudhota vidhir vijnata tattvasagaraha Tushtava veda sarena stotrena nina keshavam Chintamani prakara sadma sukalpa vriksha Laksha vriteshu surabhirabhipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Shatasang Brahma Sevyamanam Govindamadi Purushang Tamahang Bhajami Numkwananta Maravinda Dalaya Taksham Barhavatang Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobhang Govindamadi Purushang Tamahang Bhajami Alola Chandra Kala Sadvanamarya Vangshi Ratnangadang Pranaya Keli Kalavilasam Shamang Tribhanga Lalitang Niyata Prakasham Govindamadi Purushang Tamahang Bhajami Angani yasya sakalendriya vrittimanti Pashyanti panti kalayanti chirang jaganti Ananda chinmaya sadujvala vigrahasya Govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami Advaitamachyutam manadim anantarupam Adyang purana purushang navayovanang cha Vedeshu durlabham adurlabham atma bhaktau Govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami Pantastu koti shatavatsara sampragamyo Vayo ratapi manaso muni pungavanam Sopyasti yat prapadasimya vichintya tatve Govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami Ekopya saura chayatung jagad andakotim Yat shaktirasti jagadanda chayayat antaha Andantarastha paramanu chayantarastham Govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami Yad bhava bhavitadhiyo manujastataiva samprapya rupa mahimasanayana pushaha suktaryam eva nigama pratitaikstuvanti govindamadi purusham tamahang bhajami ananda chinmaya rasa pratibhavitabhis tabhirya eva nijarupataya kalabhihi goloka eva nivasatya kilatma bhuto govindamadi purusham tamahang bhajami premanjanat churita bhakti vilochanena santah sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti yang shama sundaram achintya gunaswarupam govindamadi purusham tamahang bhajami ramadi murti shukalani amena tishthan Nanavatara makarod bhuvaneshu kintu Krishnak swayang samabhavat paramak pumanyo Govindamadi purushang tamahang bhajami Yasya prabha prabhavato jagadanda koti Koti shvashesha vasudhari vibhuti pinnam Tad Brahma nishkalamanantam ashesha bhutang Govindamadi purusham tamahang bhajami Maya hiyasya jagadanda satani sute Traigunya tad vishaya veda vitaya mana Sattva-valambi parasattvang vishuddha sattvang Govindamadi purusham tamahang bhajami Ananda chinmaya rasatmataya manaksu Yah praninang pratipalan smaratam upetya Lilayetena bhuvanani jayatya jasram Govindamadi purusham tamahang bhajami Golokanamni nijadhamni tale chatasya Devi mahesha haridhama suteshu teshu Te te prabhava nichaya vihitascha yena Govindamadi purusham tamahang bhajami Shrishti sthiti pralaya sadhana shakti rekha Chayeva yasya bhuvanani bhiparti durga Icchanurupam api yasya chacheshtate sa Govindamadi purusham tamahang bhajami Kshirang yatha tadhi vikara vishesha yogat Sanjayate nahi tatak pratak asti hetoho Yaksham bhutam api tatha samupaiti karyad Govindamadi purusham tamahang bhajami Diparchireva hi chatsantaram abhyupetya Dipayate vivrita hetu samana dharma Yasthadrigeva hi cha vishnu taya vibhati Govindamadi purusham tamahang bhajami Yakaranarnavajale bhajati sma yoga Nidramananta jagadanda saroma kupaha Adhara shaktim avalambya parang swamurting Govindamadi purusham tamahang bhajami Bhas Svasikaka Jivanti loma vilaja jagadandanataha Vishnur mahansa ihayasya kala vishesho Govindamadi purusham tamahang bhajami Bhasvan yatashma shakaleshu nijeshu tejaha Swiyang kiyat prakatayat yapi tadvad atra Brahma ya esha jagad anda vidhana karta Govindam Adi Purusham Tamahang Bhajami. Yat Pada Pallava Yugang Vinidhaya Kumbha Dvandve Pranama Samaye Sakanadhi Rajaha Vignan Vihantu Malam Asya Jagatrayasya Govindam Adi Purushang Tamahang Bhajami. Agnir Mahika Ganamambu Bharadshascha Kalastathatma Manasiti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Vishanti Yangcha Govindam Adi Purushang Tamahang Bhajami. Yat Chakshuresha Sabita Sakala Grahanam Raja Samasta Suramurti Rashesha Teja Yasyagyaya Brahmati Sangrita Kala Chakro Govindam Adi Purushang Tamahang Bhajami. Dharmota Papa Nichaya Shrutayasta Pangsi Brahmadi Kita Bhagavadayascha Jivaha Yaddatta Matra Vibhava Prakata Prabhava Govindam Adi Purushang Tamahang Bhajami. Yastvindra Gopa Matavendra Mahosva Karma Bandhanurupa Palabhajanam Atanoti Karmani Nirdahati Kintu Chapakti Bhajang Govindam Adi Purushang Tamahang Bhajami. Yang Krodha Kama Sahaja Pranayadi Bhiti Vatsalya Moha Guru Gaurava Sevya Bhavahi Sanchintya Tasya Satrishting Tanamapurete Govindam Adi Purushang Tamahang Bhajami. Govindam Adi Purushang Tamahang Bhajami. Shriya Kantaha Kantaha Parama Purusha Kalpatarabo Druma Bhumis Chintamani Ganamai Toyamamritam Katha Ganang Natyang Gamanam Apivangshi Priya Sakhi Chidanandang Jyotik Paramapi Tadasvadyam Api Cha Sayatra Kshirabdhik Sravati Surabhi Bhyascha Sumahan Nimesharthakyo va vrajati nahi yatrapi samayaha Bhaje Shweta Dvipang Tamaham Iha Golokamitiyam Vidantaste Santakshiti Birala Chara Katipaye Ato Bhaja Mahavishnur Bhagavantang Prajapating Brahman Mahatva Vijnane Praja Sarge Chachinmatihi Panchashloki Mimang Vityang Vatsatattang Nibodhame Prabudhe Jnana Bhaktibhyam Atmaniyananda Chinmayi Udeti Anutama Bhaktir Bhagavat Prema Lakshana Pramana Istat Sadachara Istat Abhyasaya Nirantaram Bodhayan Atmanatmanang Bhaktim Apyutamang Labhet Yasyak Shreyas Karang Nasti Yaya Nirvritamapnuyat Ya Sadhayati Mameva Bhakting Tameva Sadhayat Dharmananyan Parityajya Mamekang Bhaja Vishvasan Yadrishi Shraddha Siddhir Bhavati Tadrishi Kurvan Nirantarang Karma Lokoyam Manuvartate Tenaiva Karmana Dhyayan Mang Parang Bhaktimichati Ahang Hi Vishvasya Characharasya Bijang Pradhanang Prakritik Pumangscha Maya Hitang Teja Idang Bibharshi Vidhe Vidhehi Tvam Ato Jaganti Ishvarak Parama Krishnaha Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govindaha Sarvakarana Karanam Iti Shri Brahma Samhita Sampurnam Harihi Om Jai Shri Shri Radha Madana Mohan. Hare Krishna. I have some notes here. Oh, okay. I thought that was instructions. So normally we read one verse in purport from the Brahma Samhita that we just read and discuss it, and we ask if anyone has a suggestion of one verse. Were you supposed to give the class? Oh, I'm sorry. Then you should give. I thought I was told to give the class, but my mistake.
If you want to do it,
No, if you're prepared something, that's all right. I think Vishaka Leela asked me what Saturdays I could give, and I said,
today?
15 and 22nd, yeah. But did she tell you to give also?
Yeah.
You,
Okay.
no,
Oh, the sun is bright. Here the reflection is. Maybe we can just put a mat over there where it's reflecting into it. Hare Krishna. So we'll continue with that verse, and then we'll go by the schedule, and after that we can discuss whatever was the decided topic for today. So which verse is that? What verse were you going to read?
Oh, from Bhagavatam?
Yeah.
I was planning to read about the Durvasa Muni and...
Is that already bookmarked here?
Mark is there.
Is the blue one or?
It's both from the blue tab on the all the way up to where the string is. I was going to read.
This tab you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was continuing about the importance of devotees, respecting devotees, and
Okay.
how they're so important.
Okay. So verse 63 then?
You could start with 63 and then go. Where's the string?
So the string is on 68
Yeah. So
and the tab is on 63.
Yeah. So 63 and 68. I was gonna read everything in between.
Okay.
I was preparing to tell a little bit the story of Durvasa Muni and
Okay.
Maharaj Ambarish, and then I was going to read about it. But if you prepared something,
No.
actually there's a theme.
Yeah.
That Vishaka Leela will ask you what the
Yeah.
theme of your lecture is, and you could just speak on whatever you're prepared to speak on.
I thought we can just read one verse
Okay.
to keep in line with the morning tradition, and then we
Okay.
can discuss the tradition.
Okay,
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
So, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. I'm sorry. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 4, verse 63. Ambarish Maharaj offended by Durvasa Muni. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Aham Bhakta Paradhino Hi Asvatantra Iva Dvija Sadhubhir Grasta Hridayo Bhaktair Bhakta Jana Priya Aham Bhakta Paradhino Hiya Swatantra Iva Dvija Sadhubhir Grista Hridayo Bhaktair Bhakta Jana Priya Aham Bhakta Paradhino Hiya Swatantra Iva Dvija Sadhubhir Grasta Hridayo Bhaktair Bhakta Jana Priya. Would anyone like to repeat? Aham Bhakta Paradhino Yasvatantra Iva Dvija Sadhubhir Grasta Hridayo Bhaktair Bhakta Jana Priya. Aham Bhakta Paradhino Yasvatantra Iva Dvija Sadhubhir Grasta Hridayo Bhaktair Bhakta Jana Priya. Aham Bhakta Paradhino Yasvatantra Eva Dvija Sadhubhir Grasta Hridayo Bhaktair Bhakta Jana Priya. Aham Bhakta Paradhino Hi Asvatantra Iva Dvija Sadhubhir Grasta Hridayo Bhaktair Bhakta Jana Priya. Aham Bhakta Paradhino Hi Asvatantra Iva Dvija Sadhubhir Grasta Hridayo Bhaktair Bhakta Jana Priya. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said to the Brahmana, I am completely under the control of my devotees. Indeed, I am not at all independent. Because my devotees are completely devoid of material desires, I sit only within the core of their hearts. What to speak of my devotee, even those who are devotees of my devotee are very dear to me. Purport. All the great stalwart personalities in the universe, including Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, are fully under the control of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead is fully under the control of his devotee. Why is this? Because the devotee is anya bhilashita shunya. In other words, he has no material desires in his heart. His only desire is to think always of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and how to serve him best. Because of this transcendental qualification, the Supreme Lord is extremely favorable to the devotees. Indeed, not only to the devotees, but also the devotees of the devotee. Srila Narottam Das Thakur says, Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nistar Payache Keba. Without being a devotee of a devotee, one cannot be released from material entanglement. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu identified himself as Gopi Bhartu Padakamalayur Dasya Dasanudas. Thus, he instructed us to become not directly servants of Krishna, but servants of the servant of Krishna. Devotees like Brahma, Narada, Vyasadeva and Shukadeva are directly servants of Krishna, and one who becomes a servant of Narada, Vyasadeva or Shukadeva, like the 6 Goswamis, is still more devoted. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur therefore says, Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasadaha. If one very sincerely serves the spiritual master, Krishna certainly becomes favorable to such a devotee. Following the instructions of a devotee is more valuable than following the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly. All glories to Srila Prabhupada for the translation and purport. Jai Srila Prabhupada. So this was a passage from the narration of the meeting of Durvasa and Ambarish, right? And because of certain considerations of when Durvasa arrived at the occasion of Ambarish breaking the fast, the time for breaking the fast was soon approaching, and Durvasa Muni had just came at that time, and he said that Ambarish was offering him honor, and he said, I need to take a bath and get fresh and come back. And for some reason he took longer than anticipated. So this 1 year long vrat or fast that Ambarish was observing had to be concluded, and in consultation with his spiritual masters and other brahmanas present on the occasion and senior Vaishnavas, he was advised to sip some water so that the fast can be considered as concluded, at the same time not dishonoring Durvasa Muni also, because the custom was that one should not honor prasadam before serving the guests. So because of this fact that Ambarish was permitted to sip water, when Durvasa returned to the scene, he was a little agitated, and he felt sidelined or overruled or minimized, and he immediately became very angry, and he took a hair from his head and he cast a spell where a very ferocious demon appeared, and he ordered the demon to destroy Ambarish. But Ambarish was not the least disturbed when such a calamity came upon him, and he was simply praying for the mercy of the Lord. And so the Sudarshan Chakra was protecting Ambarish, and this demon could not do any harm. And in turn, Sudarshan Chakra came after Durvasa Muni, and he had to run to all corners of the universe, to Brahma, to Shiva, to everyone, and nobody could grant him any protection. And finally he came to the master of Sudarshan Chakra, Lord Shri Vishnu, and that's where we are here at this verse. So Lord Vishnu is explaining to Durvasa that, listen, O Brahmana, I am not an independent authority. I am completely under the control of my devotees, because they know nothing other than me, and I know nothing other than them. And so in a way he is indicating to Durvasa Muni that your best protection can only be possible if you approach and seek forgiveness from Ambarish, because he is the person you have offended, not me or not anyone else. And so if you seek forgiveness, he is the only person who can grant you forgiveness. So that's what the conversation would proceed, and so this forms a very fundamental basis of Bhagavad culture. Today what we are going to discuss also is on the same lines about what exactly is Bhagavad culture, and Bhagavatam provides a glimpse of the essential qualities which constitute this Bhagavad culture, or a system of learning, a system of life, a system of living, and a system of our constitutional fulfillment. And so the theme selected for today's talk was on the lines of, it's an ongoing discussion we had a few months ago. Vrindavan Priya Prabhu gave the presentation on science and religion, and so I was asked to just continue on that theme for today. So I chose the topic of science and religion from antithesis to synthesis, because there's a general perception that the two are at odds with each other, and there's a lot of press coverage and news and a lot of interviews that are published which kind of give that indication that the two are incompatible or the two are opposite to each other. So I thought we can share some thoughts on what the great sages have said about these things and how they view this topic. And today morning we just read the Brahma Samhita, and as we all know, Brahma, you couldn't find any better scientist or a sage than Lord Brahma himself in this universe. At the same time, he doesn't call himself, in our language, a scientist or any of those designations. So let's try to reflect on a few things on what we can, what have the different sages concluded on this topic and what have they left for us to understand and appreciate. So a few days ago, I came across an article in New York Times wherein, this happened in Oakland, I think, just here, north of Bay Area. There was a family whose daughter was very young, and she was on life support for a long time, and she was in some kind of a coma. And the doctors wanted to declare her dead and remove the life support system because it was costing an expense, and they were not having any hope that this patient's health would improve. And the parents were of a particular faith, I forget which. They were going to some church, but I'm not sure which church or which congregation they were. And they were quoting, scriptural evidences that, she's not dead, her heart is still, beating, and she may have been brain dead, but that doesn't mean she's dead. And they wanted the life support to continue. And so they had to sue the hospital, because that's the only way in this country, is that if you need to get something done, you have to sue them. And so this is a dilemma. This is a modern day dilemma. We are unable to conclude on the definition of death. Although death is a fact, everybody accepts that, and nobody can avoid that. And so this I just wanted to share this anecdote so that we get an idea of what's the kind of society we are living in, and why is this dialogue important for us to understand the details of this dialogue and how it affects us, and how the legal system is built around a legal council or a scientific council. See, in the Vedic culture, in the Brahmanical culture, in the Bhagavad culture, the council for the kings used to be the Brahmanas. And the definition of a Brahmana is he who is aware of Brahman. And this knowledge is only acquired if the student has some prerequisites like his character, his temperament. It all has to be suitable. He has to qualify certain things in order to receive this knowledge of Brahman, for him to be called a Brahmana. And they were the people who would oversee the governance of the administration and give advice when consulted. And come to the modern day, we have similar kind of structure. The only thing is the advisors have changed, the administration has changed, and the source of their knowledge has changed. So you can see that in the court of law, what kind of things will be upheld, and whether what we practice in this room is going to be upheld in the court of law or not is a question to be is awaiting us, and it depends on how we conduct ourselves in the society. And so the news article, very layman's term, it pits science against religion. That was the title of this front page article on New York Times just a few weeks ago, or maybe a month or two ago. And you see that it's not like a dead dialogue. It's a very active dialogue. You see these things coming up every now and then in schools, in colleges, in universities, in public life, where the Supreme Court is faced with so many moral dilemmas in society, especially in the US, where there are some new things that are demanding some attention from the Supreme Court and the justices, and they're all unaware of what to base their judgment on. It's right now stagnant at their own personal gut feeling or intuition, which is a very nascent form of passing judgment. And so this again brings the focus back on what are we doing in the society, how do we contribute to the society, and how do we help throw some light into the situation and give some perspective based on whatever we have learned so far. And how do you encourage people to embrace this culture? That's what spreading Krishna consciousness, the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would involve. So, having said, so this is kind of the preface or the foundation I wanted to start on, because to highlight that this is a very live social engagement in the current day society of people talking about these things. And so as devotees, it behooves us to get our fundamentals clarified so that our faith becomes is shielded from this onslaught of doubts. And so I would just start with, in the last session, as you may recall, or you can hear the presentation recorded online, a lot of things were discussed, and it was quite a detailed presentation. So I don't intend to repeat. I might just repeat a few things because most of the things were already covered, but I might just stress on a few points rather than talk a whole everything. So, synthesis is something that is one can misunderstand and say that, okay, when we say synthesis, that means everyone in the room compromises and comes to a common principle. Whereas synthesis doesn't necessarily mean compromise, or it's like unrecognizable after some time. We'll discuss what synthesis of science and religion means from a Vedantic perspective or from Bhagavad culture perspective. So, if we were to see how we conduct ourselves, what governs or what defines us, what are the few characteristics that defines every human being, irrespective of any titles that you can impose on him. Is there any common principles that ties all of us together in terms of our behavior or in terms of our conduct? Any guesses?
Our birth. We come from our parents.
Mm-hmm. No, I meant to say from an intellectual perspective, what is it that defines us or separates us as humans from other animals or from other species of life?
We know about death.
Okay. And?
We reason. We think about things in a different way. We have language, and we have logic and philosophy.
So we have a little evolved consciousness that allows us to pursue our inquisitiveness. We are inquisitive by nature. All species of life are inquisitive. The difference in human species is they are inquisitive about beyond the four necessities of food, shelter, and the basic necessities, right? So what we are inquiring is something outside of these, and that's not to be seen or witnessed in other species of life. So there is inquiry. There is this nature of jigyasu, which is at the core of our existence. It manifests to different levels in different species, but it's still the same. That quest is the same. And we also have another very important characteristics, or which kind of is in our constitutional built, and that is, anyone like to take a guess on what that is?
We have been given intelligence in the sense that we can pursue what is good and what is bad on a given circumstances.
So there is a moral compass, you mean to say? Yeah. No, I'm trying to help you understand what, instead of me directly saying, I'm trying to see how to get the answers from you so that it doesn't look so one-way traffic all the way. So what's built into, or what's our nature, is that we implicitly have this tendency to put faith into our own abilities or our own cerebral capabilities or in somebody's words or something. Like for example, even in animal species, you will see that you develop this relationship of trust. If you have a pet animal or something, you can see that. And you get accustomed to the environment and you develop a level of trust and faith in yourself, in the surroundings with fellow beings. So this notion of faith is very fundamental to our existence. And the kind of faith we have determines our personality, because in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, faith is what defines a person. It's so much so that we are made of faith. Shraddhavan means we are made of faith. And our faith defines our personality. So that's a very fundamental part of, or it's basically who we are. We are faithful beings, right? And we have this inquisitive nature to find out about ourselves. And if we look deeper, if we introspect, we'll see that we have this inquisitive nature to find out who we are. And we kind of have faith that, okay, this is what I am, or this is what I want to be. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, that's what defines, according to the modes of material nature, is what one would be classified as a dedicated person or as an exploitative person, to be broadly putting it in terms of as bahirmukh or antarmukh, or a devoted or a demoniac person, or exploitative or servitude person, or one who is of a very exploitative nature, or one who is of a very calm nature or serving nature. So these are some of the fundamentals about who we are. It's got nothing to do so much with the species or what bodies or what socio-economic status we are surrounded with, or what labels we put on ourselves. This is what makes us. So if from these perspectives we'll try to analyze the camps who call themselves as scientists, or the camps of people who call themselves as religious, and we'll see how over a period of few years or few decades or few centuries, things have kind of muddled, and there's a lot of confusion in this dialogue. And we'll look at the methodologies recommended by the different groups of people and see if there are any reason for them to be still arguing about each other, about who is wrong or who is right. So, 2001, something very strange happened. It was being planned for months and years, but the outcome kind of shook the world on September 11. And that's when the world took notice that how come people of religious motivations can have so much of violent tendencies in them. And people all over the world, especially the scientific community, they kind of woke up from their slumber and said, we need to study religion, because apparently it's something that is strongly motivating people. And therefore this interest in religious outlook kind of gathered momentum because of such a drastic tragedy that has struck the world in broad daylight, And this was not the first time, there have been crusades ever since the creation, or ever since, time immemorial. There's always this battle between, good and bad, and this kind of always happens. And Bhagavatam is full of stories or anecdotes of such occurrences. And so coming back to our modern context, when events like those happen, where people of a religious motivation misuse scientific enterprise, and then it's the question of, is science wrong or is religion wrong? People are usually arguing about, science would try to eliminate any religion, saying it's just faith, Or religious people will say that, that is all propaganda, that's not true, because they're directly denying what we believe is true. So there are these two camps of people who are at odds with each other, both of them immature in their own way, and trying to label or obviate the use for the other group. But when such kind of events happen where people of religious motivation or religious motivated violence is witnessed by the general people, then everybody takes notice and says, okay, both of you are wrong. And but that's the kind of an immature representation of this of human nature. And we need to take notice that both of them are not addressing our inherent quest for trying to find our own identity in this world. Because that's what, remember, is driving us in all our actions, in all our endeavors. We're trying to find out answers to our deeper questions. The person who sincerely does this throughout his life would be called as a sadhaka or a bhakta or a jigyasu. But a person who ignores these quests and instead focuses on external things would be termed as a trivial pursuit, so to say, not very intelligent use of his faculties. So that's why, in our Bhagavad culture, it doesn't talk in terms of these apparent contradictions. It talks in terms of this fundamental constituent building blocks of our own self. And the aim is to revive our identity, and it gives us a process by which we can do this. And therefore, there is, in the Vedantic tradition or in the Bhagavad culture, it's not so much about science or religion, it's much more about how you can understand your own self and how you can understand your surroundings, and how can you learn more about the source of those? Because obviously it's not coming from you, but it's coming from somebody and some person. So we need to study the source of both of these. And that's what entails this Bhagavad culture. So the religionists who claim to be wear their faith on their shoulders, or so to say, the professors of those who profess their faith to a fanatic extent, and who kind of bring much disrepute to their group, need to understand that they're not dealing with this fundamental constitutional nature of our own self. It's some superficial bodily platform that they're acting on, and doesn't necessarily, and it's misleading for the general public when they call themselves as people of faith or of people of religion, or it's misleading for the general people when scientists denounce them, and the general public is led to believe that science is an alternative to this kind of violence. A lot of people turn to science because of science, in the sense, I mean modern science, not in terms of Vedantic worldviews. But it kind of gives them a safe haven where they are led to escape their religious polarization. So that kind of lays the foundation as to why is it important for us to understand what is all the confusion going on in the world. At one side you see the court cases where the Supreme Court justices are burdened with so much of a dilemma about what is right and what is wrong. And on the other side, you have people with religiously motivated violence who is causing more damage to the society, which is like the worst of both worlds, science and religion. So let's take a look at the traditional definition of, how this was already covered in the topic the first time it came around, was that how the mind of a, so to say, current day scientist works is that there is an idea or a theory that he would like to verify, and he has some faith in his assumptions or abilities, and he sets up some experiments and to validate his hypothesis, and based on some feedback that he has, he calibrates the theory, or he tries to fine-tune it and try to explain more and more phenomena and see how widely applicable that particular observation or theory is. But there is an underlying principle of faith below all these superficial stages of thought. And that's an area that we should focus on to bring about a kind of a unified process of developing our intellectual abilities. And so traditionally people have been obsessed with observing external phenomena, what they can see, what they can verify, what they can conclude, and what they can predict, based on some external phenomena, not so much about who they are, but so much about what they see, or what they feel, or what they infer. And so they have developed a lot of methodologies and a lot of tools and languages and techniques to communicate those ideas of the external phenomenal world. But it's only limited to that. And the reductionistic approach is trying to explain everything from that standpoint without having a scope for a dialogue to accept or even to give a chance of consideration that there's some non-material animate aspect to this working of this material world. So their sources of acquiring knowledge is limited to senses and extended senses and extrapolation of those observations. So pratyaksha and anumana is what you would call them as. And so these are the kind of tools and techniques and observations, and the subject of their study is what is under the purview of modern day scientists. But if you can see that it's not something which is out of reach for a devotee. Even a devotee, he still has the ability to understand material workings of the material nature. It doesn't mean that he's not supposed to try to understand the workings of the material nature. Becoming a devotee doesn't preclude that, right? Becoming a devotee means you understand both the phenomenal and the numinous world. Right? Jnanam teham savijnanam idam vakshyami asheshatah yad gyatvaneha bhujonyad gyatavyam avashishyate. That Sri Krishna is saying to Arjuna in the 7th chapter that Maya sakta manapartha yugam yunjan madashraya asamshayam samagram ma yatha gyasasi tajshrunu, right? And so he's saying to Arjuna that now listen attentively, for I shall describe to you these two systems of knowledge, knowing which nothing else will remain for you to know. And he starts by Bhumirapa analo vayu kammano buddhirevacha. He is briefly discussing the material world, and then he's saying apareyam tu itastanyam vidhi prakriti me param jiva bhutam mahabahu yayedam dharyate jagat. Right? He's talking about the material elements that constitute the bulk of the creation, and he's talking about the spiritual sparks that operate this, because matter is inert by itself and it won't transform unless there is an external application by the animate spiritual entities. So it's a combination of these two, and even in the 13th chapter Krishna says that one who has been endowed with a vision of knowledge can understand that this world is nothing but the interaction of the knower of the field and the field of, or the body and the soul. So even in devotional culture, we see that the subject matter, which is so much obsessed by this camp of scientists, is also a subset of the subject matter of the Vedantic knowledge. So, and there is more to it than what the scientists can accommodate for in their theories or in their observations. So, therefore, we need to understand what kind of qualifications one should develop to gain this further insights, because we have hit some roadblocks. We are unable to explain many of the things. Our theories fall short of many things. We are frustrated at all levels in trying to explain or come up with a theory that works under all time, place and circumstances. And we have not been able to do that. So, whereas in the Vedantic tradition you can see that there are, or before we go there, even in the scientific camp, there is this underlying dissatisfaction because of their inability to find the theory of everything, right? But there is a kind of a satisfaction and contentment in the heart of devotees, because they know that, Krishna is awarding them the knowledge by which it's giving them inner peace and satisfaction, and all their doubts have been addressed or eliminated, right? So the deeper quest has been fully addressed in this Vedantic tradition. In addition to knowing about the workings of the material nature, they also know about themselves. They also know about their relationship with the source of both of them, the Supreme Person, and how they are supposed to conduct in light of that relationship. Sambandha, Abhijaya and Prayojana, all these three things have been presented in the Vedantic tradition. So, therefore, it kind of gives a very broad perspective on this whole dialogue, and it kind of motivates people to think deeper. And we see that even in the, in our day-to-day observations or practical endeavors of the scientific community, we see there's a lot of or great thinkers have exhibited qualities which are similar to what a Vaishnava or what a devotee would be expected to have. So is Ramananda Prabhu there? Yes. Okay. Prabhuji, can you display some of the slides that we had? So these are just some quotations from So what I wanted to share was people from thinkers or thought leaders from the society, from the open society, who are not particularly affiliated with any religious backgrounds or there any religious groups. Even they are able to appreciate with their unbiased, neutral outlook as to what they feel about the universe, or what they feel about God, or what they feel about different things. So we can just take a moment to just see what they have to say. I think this is by, I'm not able to read it. John Ray, is it? Okay. So there is for a free man no occupation more worth and delightful than to contemplate the beauteous works of nature and honor the infinite wisdom and goodness of God. So the idea behind these quotations is that to bring to our notice or our attention that even the people who are considered the founding fathers of many disciplines had a very theistic outlook, and it's not justice to say that science is against religion or religion is against science, because for the people of developed thought and intellect, they don't see it as two different things. So can we go to the next slide? So this is again a Nobel laureate in physics. Would anybody like to read the quote?
A scientific discovery is also a religious discovery. There is no conflict between science and religion. Our knowledge of God is made larger with every discovery we make about the world. By Joseph Houghton Taylor, Jr.
Yeah. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah, this is better.
Physics filled me with awe, put me in touch. Whoops. I'm reading from Isidore Isaac Rabi.
Yeah.
Nobel laureate in physics.
Prabhu, is that a slideshow or?
Can you keep it on one slide at a time? Yeah. So, physics filled me with awe, put me in touch with a sense of original causes. Physics brought me closer to God. That feeling stayed with me throughout my years in science. Whenever one of my students came to me with a scientific project, I asked only one question: will it bring you nearer to God?
So, can we go to the next quote? I mean, this is just to give you an idea about how these people saw, or what their feelings were. This is not so much available in the public newspapers and things like that, but it's nonetheless something that we should be considerate about. Yes, please.
The first gulp from the glass of natural sciences will turn you into an atheist. But at the bottom of the glass, God is waiting for you.
Yeah. So these are not ordinary people. These are people who have shown the light for the next few centuries of how science will be moving forward. And, people, even current day grad school students and all, still read the theories which have been proposed by these thinkers. Yet there is a disconnect in current day society. And one would wonder, what is the cause for such a disconnect? Why when they're quoting these things, how come the society still thinks that science is at odds with the religion? What's the cause for such a disconnect? Right? It's something wondrous. And that disconnect is further worsened when people of religious association misuse scientific enterprise and cause much havoc in this world. And instead of helping bridge the gap, it's furthering the gap and this polarized society. So, can we go to the next slide? Can you also read who said that quote? Yeah. Okay.
He is known for having coined the term...
No, that is just his biography, the quote. Read the quote.
The right side one?
Yeah.
A life-giving factor lies at the center of the whole machinery and design of the world, by John Wheeler.
So, this is another famous personality. If you asked any grad school student, he would immediately know who John Wheeler is. But if you asked him, did you know that he said this? The answer is very likely that he wouldn't be aware of these things. And so, this is so much in line with our Vedantic tradition about Kshetra and Kshetragya, this interaction of this whole world is combination of two forces, Apara and Para Prakriti. I mean, this is just a very simplified representation, but all the details are in the different kinds of the Parashakti and Aparashakti and how they interact and how it influences and all those things. But at the very basic level, this is a summary of theirs too. So, if we come across these kind of quotations, we don't see the need for such kind of a confusion, right? So, as you can see, they have also developed some kind of a tolerant, humble character, which they have been able to develop because of their continued efforts to understand nature, and they have been humbled in their efforts in their journey. And this brings about another important qualification of the seeker of truth. Ultimately, we are all seekers of truth, right? As I said at the very beginning, we are inquisitive, and we are identified by what we put our faith and trust in. That's what defines our identity, and we are inquisitive to find out that identity. So, these are people of great inquisitive nature, and they have sacrificed a lot in their lives to pursue their inquisitive nature and to seek answers to the questions in the life. They have foregone, in many cases, they have been at odds with the society that they are living in, and they had to sacrifice so many pleasures in life that a normal person would not give up, so that they can quench their thirst for finding answers. So, they have developed certain qualities of humility and certain qualities of respect and honesty, which are very essential for even the devotees, or so to say. They're essential for anyone in life. right? We are not talking so much in terms of designations of what a devotee is or what a non-devotee is and all. We are just focusing on the essential characteristics and qualities that constitute a successful path for us to progress on. So can we go to the next slide, Prabhu? So this is a quote from Bhakti Swarup Damodar Swami. You can read it.
Modern education needs a paradigm shift from material to spiritual in order to avoid destroying the human species.
Yeah. So as you can see, this is, post 2001, things have taken a real drastic turn, and there's more wars than ever before, and the world is kind of, be it terrorism or not, there's always wars for, corporations and companies to destroy the world and mine the resources, and things are going on. So can we go to the next slide? Yeah.
In order to experience the science of religion, you must be religious.
Yeah. So there are many people who are inquisitive about religion, but they don't practice it. And so it's like trying to lick the honey from the outside of the bottle, and they're never going to experience or understand what a religious person's worldview is and how are they the same or different or whatever it is. They'll never be able to appreciate that. So this is more of a call to motivate them to practice it and integrate the principles in their own life. Yeah. Next. Yeah.
An equation for me has no meaning unless it represents a thought of God.
Can you read his biography also?
Sorry, the
left side.
Okay. Srinivasa Ramanujan. He made extraordinary contributions to mathematical analysis, number theory, infinite series, and continued fractions. During his short lifetime, Ramanujan independently compiled nearly 3,900 results, mostly identities and equations.
Yeah. So they are trying to understand the workings of the material world. They're trying to express those in terms of mathematical equations and laws and some concise form of representation. It's just another language as far as we are concerned. Yes.
There was, within the last 20 years, someone wrote a biography of Ramanujan in English called The Man Who Knew Infinity. I think that was the one, about how he met Professor Hart and came to England and passed away there. But I thought it was a very good read, an interesting life of a mathematician, especially a number theorist, who studies the qualities of numbers, of quantities.
Thank you. Can we go to the next one? So this is a quote which talks about what are the kind of qualifications we need. So to develop an attitude towards compassion, we must study the wisdom of the world's religion. If we see, people of academia or students of the modern universities and other institutions, they are not given a holistic perspective on the environment. They're studying the environment separate from them. It's not an integrated approach where they see themselves as part of the environment they're trying to study. And because of this separation, they are a little less concerned about the well-being or the welfare of the environment. And that's the kind of a reductionistic paradigm that was referred to a little bit in the few slides before. So, yeah. Anybody would like to read that? Yeah.
A science to be science must afford the fullest scope for satisfying the hunger of body, mind, and soul. Yeah. Mahatma Gandhi, father of Indian independence movement.
Yeah, this is just a collection of some of the quotes that we would normally not come across. We'll go to the next slide. Is there a next slide? Yeah, it's there. Yeah. Okay.
Scientific knowledge requires constant probing into the why and wherefore of every little process that you perform.
Yeah.
Mahatma Gandhi.
So, are there people who are pursuing PhDs and all? Is this an accurate definition of what entails a scientific process? Even though coming from a non-scientific person, right? So, what's happening is that we are not doing justice to our deeper sense of inquiry. We kind of cut it short, saying, okay, I can't explain this, so I have to ignore it. And when that happens, you minimize the purview of the applicability of those theories that you're trying to develop. And instead of acknowledging shortcomings in the approach, you deny the existence of such kind of phenomena as some offshoots or one-off incidents or something, and you want a nice graph, equation that plots a nice graph that fits every data, and you don't want to account for all the points on the graph that your curve doesn't cut. And instead of acknowledging a shortcoming in the approach, you want to deny it, and that's the kind of a mentality which gives rise to this kind of a separate, polarized society. Whereas if we see people who are deeply endowed with a deeper understanding or mature worldview, they accept these limitations and they take note and they try to correct their approach. Instead of sticking to the approach and denying things that don't fit the approach, they try to change their approach. And that requires humility. So we talked about faith, we talked about inquisitiveness, and now we talked about humility. How does one develop humility? Actually, people of scientific enterprise are best suited to develop this quality of humility because they're failing at every step in their life, right? At every theory that they try to come up with, there's one other observation which they can't explain. So for us, it's a little difficult to develop humility because we are not at the front lines of this battle and we are not seeing defeat. Of course, we are seeing defeat. Our body is failing every day, and our senses are weakening and all. But it's a little different. It's a little subtle to observe. But if it's an intellectual battle and you're unable to comprehend something, then you can see, okay, yeah, I better surrender because I'm not able to figure it out. And that brings you a little closer to surrender. And can we go to the next slide? Hopefully we'll get a quote which helps us. Yeah.
The principle of divine purpose stares the biologist in the face wherever he looks. The probability for such an event as the origin of DNA molecules to have occurred by sheer chance is just too small to be seriously considered.
So this is an example of, the scientific community coming around and saying, okay, yes, those probabilities and those hypotheses were, we had our fun with them. Let's not waste any more time with those things, and let's consider this option of, a divine purpose. So we have to keep in mind that this is not really based on any Shastric evidence. It's more from their experiences and the learnings they have gathered in their journey so far. So it just gives us a hint about something divine and something more profound and fundamental. And we can see that for a person who's trained in Vedantic knowledge, it's not such a insightful thing. It's a very standard thing for a person in Vedantic tradition. But for somebody who's not in the Vedantic tradition, which one? Okay. I had a question. Okay. So I think there is a text message that somebody wants to join the call.
He wants to call it, he can call it, it's unmuted.
Okay, so okay, so Vrindavan Priya Prabhu, if you're listening, you can, if you like to speak something, you're on the speaker right now.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you. Actually, I just texted in to say that earlier I was unable to speak, so I have few comments, but I will wait till the end, so you can go ahead.
Okay. So, can we go to the next slide? This is again a quote from Schrodinger. Anybody would like to read?
Whence come I and whither go I? That is the great unfathomable question, the same for every one of us. Science has no answer to it. Arvind Schrodinger.
Next.
The laws of physics and physiology will never reveal the indisputable manner in which the Creator constantly, day in and day out, participates in the life of each of us, unfailingly granting us the energy of existence. Alexander Schoenstein.
Can you also read his qualification?
He's a Nobel laureate in literature.
Can we go to the next slide? Okay, it's done. This is the first one, right? So I just wanted to share some quotations from people of impartial religious affiliations about what their view on religion or science or spirituality would be. And we can see that it's pretty elementary, although it's not complete, but it's not wrong. It's a very elementary representation of their reverence and their wonder that they experienced in their journey so far. And yes.
I have a question, which is that we've brought. It seems like you've looked for quotes, cherry-picked quotes from scientists who have some spiritual or religious feeling, or also from political leaders, and like Solzhenitsyn is a religious dissident whose claim to fame was that he wrote books about the prison system of the Soviet Union that persecuted religious people. But I'm wondering whether we could find a number of quotes from other scientists who are atheists. And
yes, like Dawkins or Hawkins.
So many of them, that would say,
Yes, I wanted to highlight that those are not rare to find, or those are not difficult to find. It's very well known, and that's what is the cause for such a polarization in the society today. But I wanted to bring to the attention of the people that there are people in the scientific community who have views other than what is generally perceived, and that was the idea behind collection of these quotes. Of course, we are not denying. We already stated that this shift in this break in polarization of this worldviews it's been an age-old thing. Also, it's not something new. In different times, different people have pioneered the different camps, and so to say, like in our Vedantic anecdotes, we'll find Hiranyakashipu or Ravana who exemplified materialistic life, and so it's not something that is just specific to Kali Yuga, or it's not just specific to some 500 or 700 years of the human history going back starting today. But this is also an age-old tradition, and the Bhagavatam also acknowledges that, different opinions and different worldviews have always been there, but having come to this human form of life, one should make the intelligent choice with the help of character and humility and honesty, and with the help of the spiritual master to come to the right kind of conclusion and do justice to their constitutional existence, right? And so I just wanted to share elaborate on a little bit about what humility in scientific endeavor means. What does it mean to be humble in one's scientific endeavor? We are in the lab, you are designing some experiments, you're surrounded by people who are talking in terms of equations and numbers and laws and those kind of things. And it's sometimes for devotees, especially for neophytes like me, it becomes very difficult to comprehend how can I be a devotee and be surrounded by these kind of people, or what does it even mean to be a Krishna conscious professional designated scientist devotee, or how can I use this knowledge to glorify Krishna, as Srila Prabhupada was alluding to in many of his purports as to the perfection of a scientist or the poet or the lawyer or the singer would be to come together and glorify Krishna. How am I going to do that in this profession? And so, as you can see, there are many other quotes wherein people, leaders of thought, who have kind of laid the foundation stone for few generations to come, have expressed a great humility as a result of their scientific endeavors. By scientific, I mean current day scientists, not the root meaning of not any fundamental way. But so the reason why they experience that is because they're honest in their endeavors and they're not trying to deny any observations which don't fit their hypothesis. And they're able to appreciate that, yes, there are some things, which we cannot explain in the current framework or which lies beyond the framework. It's just not possible for us to approach that realm from where we stand. So they are kind of helpless. And they're just, just ripe for somebody for them to be approached by some Vedanta person or a person who's well conversant with the Vedic traditions to lend them a helping hand and bring them a little beyond their current dilemma. And so I'd like to quote Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada in this context, where actually this is a very nice essay. We have discussed this in the past also. What this means is, now that we realize the inability of our senses and the faculties to comprehend nature and ourselves, it brings us to a point of surrender. And this is what is also known as the Drik Drishta Vichar, or who is the seer, the seen, and the process of seeing. The subject matter, the methodology, and the sources of everything. So far we have been assuming that, okay, it's us who see, us who observe, and us who think and figure out and things like that. Whereas in reality, we are all objects of vision of Sri Krishna. He is the seer, we are the seen, right? We are under his purview. Maya dhakshena prakriti suyate sacharajaram. This adhyakshata, akshata is vision, and adhyakshata means under the vision, or he is the supervisor. So that by word it means that we are the objects of his vision. It's not the other way around where we see things or we are the consumers of this data or something. It's we are part of the environment, or we're under his purview. So when we recognize this fact, it furthers it enables us to gain further insights, because we assume an inferior position and we become more qualified to receive knowledge. So there's a need for a shift or a paradigm shift in the process of acquiring knowledge. So we talked about the sources of knowledge being your senses and observations and extrapolations or interpretations, pratyaksha and anuman so far. But then there's another source of knowledge which is beyond us, which is outside of us, which is apaurusheya, which we still need to consider, because maybe what's the harm if we have to give it a try? We haven't been able to explain everything with our own abilities, so why not give it a try and let's just give it a chance, assuming that some people are skeptical about it. So what that talks about is basically how one needs to develop this quality of humility. Amanitvam, adambitvam, ahimsa, kshantirarjavam, acharyopasanam, shaucham, stairyam, atmavinigraham. So Lord Sri Krishna in 13th chapter verse 5, 6, 7, I think 6, yeah, I know, but 6 and 7 he talks about the material world, mahabhutani ahankaro buddhiravyaktamevacha. So he talks about the objects to be studied, and 8 to 12 describe the process of studying. So, and both of these constitute knowledge. It's not that just you know what to study and you study that and you can call yourself knowledgeable. It's how you study also what defines whether you're knowledgeable or not. How much insights can you gain is by how you study. And there you will see that our invocation prayers is so this 12th verse ends with etat jnanam iti proktam ajnanam yatato anyatha. And then we, in our everyday morning, we say, Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya. So what is that ignorance that we are trying to overcome? Right? It's so these are some of the subtle aspects of our own journey on this process of understanding ourselves, our environment, the source of us. And this is common to any seeker, irrespective of what label you want to put on him. So, are there any questions so far? Or any observations or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes.
Is this a good time to make a few comments?
Yes, Prabhu. Share. Please share.
Okay. So one thing about the synthesis or dialogue between science and religion, probably need to qualify or distinguish to at least a certain extent the differences between the Western religious thoughts and the Eastern or the followers of Bhagavad culture or Vedantic tradition. Mm-hmm. I think you made some distinctions, but perhaps maybe some detailed differences may need to be taken into account because, for example, the distinction between body and soul is very clearly stated in our tradition or in the Eastern philosophy, but it's not that clear in the Western religious thought, right? For example, even to this day, I believe that in the Christian teachings, people think that the animals do not have soul. It's only the human beings who have soul and who are able to communion with God and so on. So that is one thing. To qualify the distinction between different religious thoughts. And the second one is that you gave some nice quotations about scientists developing a theistic worldview after their journey through science. And there are actually many more scientists who have had such tendencies. But it's also important to notice that most often the idea about something higher, some higher authority or something divine that scientists develop in the course of their journey through empirical study is mostly a very impersonal understanding about God. So we also I think we need to specify again the distinction or the special position that we take in Bhagavad culture of a very personal and personal viewpoint of the ultimate source. So that is also something that needs to be considered in this discussion. For example, there's a very famous quote by Einstein where he says that God does not play dice, right? So I've seen that many people use that statement, say that look, Einstein was a theist or he believed in God and like that. But actually, if you study his biography and life course in detail, he clearly says that he never believed in the personal God.
Yes.
He just thinks that the source of all the laws of nature, which scientists are trying to discover, is something impersonal, some impersonal kind of a feature, and that he's just calling God for, in his dialogues or his argument. So most likely by following the empirical methodology, even though one may come to the understanding that there is something divine,
yes,
but that idea will most likely be very impersonalistic. So
yeah, it's a very rudimentary. It's a very rudimentary understanding, but nonetheless, it's something to their benefit. Is what I meant to say. Yeah, you're right. You pointed out that there is much more to be learned. It's not the end of it. They are still curious. They are still trying to do, find answers to some of their deep-rooted questions. Unfortunately, they are not aware of good tools and good techniques to gain further insights. Like, for example, a few months ago, I met with a Nobel laureate in Stanford. His name is Martin Pearl. He's about 70 years old, and he got his Nobel Prize after like a few 2.5 decades after his original research was published, and it was validated, and it stood the test of time and whatever, and then the community bestowed on him this Nobel Prize. And when we met him, he was very curious to say, I'm trying to study consciousness, and I'm very curious about consciousness. And this person he's practically retired. He's just going there of his own will. He's not forced to work or anything, no classes, nothing, no students. But he's still inquisitive. He still comes to the lab. He's very energetic and enthusiastic. And he's trying to understand consciousness. And, unfortunately, I'm not in a position to kind of tell that, why don't you consider this? Or, even if I say I don't have much weight. But if there was some, authorities that he respected or he obeyed or he listened to, and they would come and say, hey, if you want to study consciousness and some things and all, now you've done so far and you've come to a point where you feel the need for studying consciousness, but then you got to change tracks and you got to adopt some different methodologies. And so far you have been in this bottom-up approach, or Aroha Pantha is what is termed in the Vedic terminology. This is Aroha Pantha or Jnana Marga. And as Vrindavan Priya Prabhu pointed out in the comment, that this can only get you so far, but the exciting part is just about to start now. Now that you've realized that you're at the cusp of something, and now you need a new set of tools, a new set of association, and a new boost from something that you have not been used to so far. And
yeah, actually, that's a very good follow-up point on what I said, and actually that brings up what I was going to say next. Is that given these kind of examples and how people, because of their inquisitive nature, by their own endeavor or by some help from the super soul within the heart, come to some understanding of some divine or higher authority, then when we are trained in this particular dialogue, and when we are knowledgeable about these things, then when we go out and present the Bhagavad tradition, then that can make a tangible difference in lives of people. So that's why this dialogue and this discussion is very important, very relevant. Thank you.
Actually, I was speaking, I wanted to comment on a similar thing what Vrindavan Priya Prabhu said, and I really liked your point, which is that talking with the leads, because those who are inside the circle, who are doing in their small labs, they may believe, but they will still, look up to these leads of frontiers. And they will still believe, well, Dawkins and Hawkins said, if they get convinced, then I might started thinking.
Yeah.
The normal populace.
The herd mentality.
Yeah, the herd mentality.
Yeah.
And for the frontiers, as you said, what Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj was doing, they were tireless in their effort. I mean, they would not compromise anything. There are so many even lectures and walks of Srila Prabhupada. He would always encourage discussion like this. I mean, he would never tire. He would call it Kirtan. And there is no difference between any other Srimad Bhagavatam class or this class. So I think if that tireless thing goes on, all the leaders and all, even the normal devotee who are proud about their being Krishna conscious and their Vedantic views and just happy to present it, then I think some at least small difference can be made. That is one comment which I want to say. Another comment was that what Vrindavan Priya Prabhu was saying, that we have to qualify our methods and what is our Sambandh Abhideya Prayojan of the normal science and our science very clearly. Because in one way, Vedantic view is quite wholesome. There is a top-down and bottom-up approach as well. And even, we have the Sankhya Yoga in which we kind of take all the material elements. And
it's a little too much for one class.
Yes. I'm just saying that it is quite wholesome.
Yes.
And
so today I thought I'll just get the discussion going and let the thought process start. And there's going to be follow-up classes and things like that. So yes, Prabhu.
This is a very good point. That what's the like you mentioned, chapter 13, verses 8 through 12. That manitvam, dambitvam, Acharya Pashanam is there, and devotion to Krishna is there even as part of the process of knowledge. And that it's very different from the scientific paradigm, which seems to be nervous. It seems to be like neurotically averse to listening to any prior authorities, because
there's a historical reason, as you know, for that kind of an aversion, because of I think this history was already covered in the last presentation about how the Vedantic worldviews has disintegrated in the Western world from Greeks to the current day Renaissance period. So that aversion is rooted from their dogmatic imposition by the religious authorities, which kind of said, okay, it's a rebellion against that. But
the religious authorities controlled the universities for many years, and the scientists were outsiders, that had to fight their way in.
So, to talk about, one who is acquainted with Vedantic tradition, this whole dialogue of science and religion kind of seems a little trivial, because for us it doesn't make much of a difference. We are more focused on something substantial, something tangible, something that we can do. It's not just about sit and speculate. But for the outside world, there is a gulf of difference for lack of education and for lack of proper understanding on these subjects. And they're just labeling themselves as belonging to one camp or the other without even trying to understand what the underlying phenomena or the underlying urge is. And my point was, today what I wanted to share was, if we simply focus on those underlying constitutional building blocks of our own self, like faith and like inquisitiveness, then we can approach a dialogue saying, hey, we are united in the sense that our search is the same. And we have a better approach. It's a more inclusive, more wide-ranging, accommodating worldview than what you have been used to so far. Would you like to give it a chance? Now, the question is, what will enhance that person's likeliness of adopting this methodology that we are proposing? What would help him adopt that, or what would dissuade him from doing so? So, if he were to choose, who is representing this Vedic tradition to him is us. So we become the basis for him to judge it, reject it, or accept it, or give it a shot, or skeptically, tentatively try it. And if we fail in our delivery, then we are doing injustice to that person, because he was at the right time, right place, at the right kind of an intellectual hunger where he would be very conducive to any advice, but we fail to demonstrate the validity of this culture. And that squarely puts the responsibility on us, saying if we have better solutions, then we need to prove it, because otherwise just talking about something, having something better is not sufficient, right? Yes.
You pointed out that many of these scientists sacrificed a lot, underwent a lot of austerity, underwent a lot of, gave up other pleasures in life to pursue their curiosity and to study, work hard. And yet, when we tell them, that in order to understand the soul and to understand God, then you have to control the senses, you have to chant, you have to meditate, you have to be pure, you have to rise early, you can't eat meat, you have to follow certain, yamas and niyamas, then, how can we persuade them to actually try to do these things?
So, there was once His Holiness Bhakti Swarup Damodar Swami was talking, and I happened to be present in that talk, where he was quoting the example of, he's from France, right? So Louis Pasteur is in France. Pasteur, right? So Pasteur is there a museum in France or Paris or somewhere where he talks about Pasteur's experiments? Are they displayed in some museum? Louis Pasteur?
In the Louvre. He's saying in the Louvre there's I don't know, but
it has everything possibly everything on the earth.
Okay. So actually, Pasteur was a very theistic person, and he was trying very hard to set up or demonstrate how life comes from life. And so he was so engrossed in his research and lab and all that he forgot to be present at his wedding on his wedding day. And so somebody, some of his friends came and, "Hey, Louis, what are you doing here? You should be, trying to attend your wedding." And so that was how engrossed he was in his quest for trying to explain how life comes from life. And so what Bhakti Swarup Damodar Swami Maharaj, he remarked is that if they are so much motivated, then you can just imagine how much more motivated we should be as devotees, claiming a higher ground. If we are lax in our following this culture, then nobody is going to take it seriously. And you can see over the period of time that it's a result of our, lack of representation that things are the way they are right now. Had Vaishnava culture been strong, like at the time of Parikshit Maharaj, we can see that, those powerful personalities, they can change the course of events. But we have to rise up to that level. I mean, as devotees, we have the potential to do that. It's just that when are we going to do it? And so it's more in the line of realizing our responsibility, realizing our role in this service, and trying to live up to and doing our parts. Because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has already given us the highest conceptions. And, this has been the story of even Gaudiya Vaishnava under, culture also, that it was largely ridiculed as being sentimentalist and this and that, and until people like, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhupada, they came up and stood for the culture and said, okay, this is not something sentimental, this is not something minimalistic, or this is not something for the layman or armchair philosopher, this is something profound, take it seriously. So it's on us, the ball is in our court to show the world that, there is a much deeper, much more profound understanding which can be achieved, but there's a process to it. And so we talked about the sources, right? So just take the example, we talked about the sources of how, so modern day people, they're more obsessed with what they can see, what they can observe, what they can hear, what they can touch, what they can sense, smell, and how they want to express that. and not so much about what's mentioned in the scripture, and for whatever historical reasons they have about being skeptical about those kind of sources. But nonetheless, if you were to approach them and say, hey, this book talks about some approach, maybe you want to give it a try. Is that sufficient? If him trying out some of the things which are mentioned in the book, would that qualify him as participating in this Vaishnava tradition? All right. Because this is an important point for us to realize also, that just because we are conducting ourselves in certain ritualistic procedures, it doesn't necessarily mean that we are actually adherents of the Bhagavad culture. Because there is a very fundamental, subtle point that is overlooked by every one of us, be in the scientific community or be in the religious community. And that is, it's not so much about you putting yourself in the position of an observer and trying to judge the Shastras or judge the environment. What has happened is people are putting themselves as the observer, in the seat of observer, and judging the environment around them. And we go and tell them, read this book, something like that. Without the part of the Bhagavad culture, the parampara system and the sampradaya and the guru-disciple relationship coming in, if he just changes his object of study from the nature to the scripture, that's not going to help him either, because he's not going to get any deeper understanding. Right? So he might be as arrogant as he was before and as ignorant as he was before, even with reading the Shastras. And that's what is happening to us. As followers of Bhagavad culture, we are missing certain critical links in this process, which is preventing us from getting further insights. And thereby, when we speak or when we represent the Bhagavad culture, it doesn't resound with the general public as deeply as somebody like, some of the Vaishnava acharyas in the past have had. So, those are the subtle points even for us to consider. It's not just so much about what is our source of knowledge, it's about how. Just like the process of acquiring knowledge. Yes.
Yeah, actually, this wonderful point, it also connects with what Akruranatha Prabhu was saying, and you said that it really depends how we are conveying that information also and how they perceive us. Because, simple example, if you convince them, maybe they'll come to impersonal understanding. But we have to probably live with it for some time. Because we have to put ourselves in their shoes and just without judging, understanding the whole purview, try to bring them one step closer to Krishna. And that can involve, we may not even present our entire culture to them also.
Yes.
So it has to be very case by case, and we have to live with it. They may not accept dhoti kurta, for example. Yeah. They may not even get initiated, but they can change their views and affect
Bahunam janmanam ante.
Exactly.
Jnanavan man prapadyate.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's very simple, but to their perception, you have to look all attractive.
Yes.
That's what's going to have an effect
yes.
on others.
Yeah. Yeah.
The temple is going up in Mayapur.
Vedic planetarium.
Vedic planetarium. That should be a place where philosophy of science and history of science and the Vedanta science is expounded and presented to people around the world and presented to scientists. It's such an important part of our mission because scientists are nowadays given the respect of those who are the wisest or the brahmanas of modern society. And we have to be able to capture that part of society, the head of society.
We convince them, then rest of the general public will follow. Yeah. That's why that's one of the contributions of Srila Prabhupada that stand out is his challenge to this everybody was assuming and nobody used to challenge anything, but Srila Prabhupada, he was fearless in that manner. He was a single man, lone man, 70 plus years of age, nobody backing him, no millionaires behind him, to, stand by him or something, but he's out there challenging the most revered understandings or conceptions of his time. And he's not afraid of that. And that's what, stood the test of time. Now you see all the people who are coming around, and, the funny part is, even Darwin wasn't as atheistic as neo-Darwinians are. In his original treatise, he hasn't concluded on many things. He's saying, okay, this is something unexplainable, maybe something is there, I'm not putting exact words to it. But the neo-Darwins, or his disciples, so to say, are more fanatic in their worldview, and they're concluding, or they're putting words in the mouth of Darwin, and now it is being projected. I'm not saying that Darwin is devotee, but I'm saying he's not as bad as what it sounds today. I'm not giving him any concession, but I'm just saying that what is happening.
He was actually very sensitive to. In fact, he did not publish until some friends persuaded him that you won't get credit for it because someone else is going to publish the similar theory. Because, the Voyage of the Beagle was in the 1830s or something like that, and the Origin of Species was not published until like 1856. Mm-hmm. And he had it all in his notebooks, but he was studying William Paley. He was studying the design arguments for the existence of God, and the all these, which was the basis for, had become the basis for what they called like natural religion, the deists and things like that, who believed that a rational person doesn't have to believe in any particular church, but can just look around the world and understand some truths about God and things. Yes. So he knew that his theory would strike at the heart of that, and he was nervous about it.
Yeah. Even in Indian subcontinent, we see in the Western world there is this clear separation of church and state and science, and in the Indian side, things have kind of, the scientific enterprise has not progressed so much, but nonetheless the religious authority has been minimized. So it's like loss on both sides, but at least on the Western side they have gained, so to say. Apparently it looks like they have leading a better, comfortable, materialistic life, and so that can be considered like a gain on their part. But in the Indian side, it's like you lost on both sides. You had gold, you were sitting on gold, but you didn't realize it, kind of thing. And just like people would have this fear and concern that, becoming a religious person, that means I have to forego on all these things, and I would be like a loser in both sides. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Why are we even considering that, right? But Krishna promises that Vedeshu yagyeshu tapasu chaiva janeshu yat punyafalam pratishtam atyeti tat sarvam vidam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. That, don't have to be fearful. You're not going to be deprived of any of the results which are derived from all these other so-called processes. All you have to do is stick to surrender to me, and, in details, the details are there, but Krishna, the essence of the instruction is that surrender to Krishna, and the rest of the things will be revealed to you as and when you become more qualified, and you're not going to be deprived of any results of these subservient processes. So we don't really have to fear, and people are misunderstanding that devotion means sentiment. Sentiment is there, but it's much more profound than what's ordinarily understood, and it's fortified by the help of this scientific process, for example, and it just develops a deeper understanding. Like there's a line in one of the purports Srila Prabhupada writes in Bhagavad Gita, that it's not just sufficient to know that God is great, but one should try to understand how He is great. Otherwise our mind will flicker. Today we may be chanting Haribol very loudly, but tomorrow whether we can keep up the same enthusiasm, only time will tell. So there's a lot of aspects to this dialogue about how things, this is more also in one sense a reflection of our own state of mind and what the different arguments our mind comes up with. So it's also a matter of introspection and study. And I just wanted to use this opportunity to start a dialogue or, get the thoughts going. Of course, this was started by Vrindavan Priya Prabhu in November. And this is just a continuation on maybe elaborating some of the salient points, or maybe, because there's not really much to invent here in this dialogue. And things have already been there. We are not here to invent or contribute more literary bulk to the more voluminous literature to this already existing body of knowledge. It's more about trying to take a step back and, when they're when you're surfing, you know that how do you escape from the waves in the ocean? You're in the middle of the ocean, and how do you escape from the waves, the onslaught of the waves? What do you do? No, if you just dip below the surface of the water, then you won't be affected by the waves. So similarly, it's just that take a step back and just try to see it from a more fundamental perspective, and all these apparent contradictions that you see will just be like a non-existent thing. That if you try to rise above if you put your head up, poke your head above the surface of the water, then you will splash by the waves. You just try to dip below the surface, not too deep, and you can feel the serene calmness of the ocean. That's just, few feet above, it's a totally different environment. A few feet below the surface of the water is a totally different environment. And that's the kind of introspective attitude we want to develop, so that we are not confused or confounded by these apparent contradictions. And, we also sing a verse, Helo dhunita khedaya vishadaya. What is that verse? Samyat shastra vivadaya rasadaya chittarpiton madaya. Yeah. So what that verse is saying is that by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all these apparent contradictions in the Vedas will be, you won't be affected by that. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that, in the second chapter, Krishna is saying that if you pass through all the confusing, contradicting instructions of the different Vedas, then you will come to this a little more serene understanding.
Yada te moha kirilam buddhim
Buddhim mohayasi vume.
What is shrotas?
Yeah, you will be
Yada te moha
indifferent.
kirilam buddhim yatatrishisi tada gantasi nirvedang shrotavyasya shrutasya cha.
Yeah. So you will be indifferent to whatever has been said and whatever is yet to be said, and it's like just try to focus on the substantial, constitutional, fundamental aspect of reality. So there's a lot more quotes and a lot more important guidelines about how our perspective should be that form the basis of this dialogue. But unfortunately, today we don't have the time to go through all of them. Maybe we can reserve it for some time in the future. If there are no further questions or comments, then we can proceed to the next part of the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. It was a nice presentation. Haribol.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma. Shri Guru Charana Padma Vandomoyi Savadana Mate. Vandomoyi Savadana Mate. Dahara Prasade Bhai E Bhavatoriya Jahara Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoy te. Krishna prapti hoy jaha. Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoy te. Krishna prapti hoy. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitte Koriya Kya. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Arana Kori Ho Mane Asha. Arana Kori Ho Asha. Arana Kori Ho Mane Asha. Arana Kori Ho Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati. Shri Guru Charane Rati Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asha. Jai Prasade Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asha. Jai Prasade Pure Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati. Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Uttama Gati. Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asha. Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asha. Chakshudana dilo jai. Janme janme Prabhu se. Chakshudana dilo jai. Janme janme Prabhu se. Divya Jnana Hriday Prakashito. Divya Jnana Divya Jnana Hriday Prakashito. दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित प्रेम भक्ति जाहा होते अविद्या विनाश जाते प्रेम भक्ति जाहा होते अविद्या विनाश जाते वेद गाय जहर चरित वेद गाय जहर चरित वेद गाय जहर चरित वेद गाय जहर श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनर बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु अधम जनर बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु लोकनाथ लोकेर जीवना लोकनाथ लोकेर जीवना लोकनाथ श्रील प्रभुपाद पतित पावना प्रभुपाद पतित पावना जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद जय जय प्रभुपाद प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद आह प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे पद जय आह प्रभु करो दया देह आह प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे पद जय आह प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे एबे जास को त्रिभुवना एबे जास को त्रिभुवना एबे जास को त्रिभुवना आह प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे पद जय आह प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे पद आह प्रभु करो दया देह मोरे पद जय आह प्रभु करो दया मोरे पद एबे जास को त्रिभुवना एबे जास को त्रिभुवना एबे जास को त्रिभुवना एबे जास को त्रिभुवना प्रभुपद जय 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 प्रभु नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद जय जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayo Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radhe. Jayo Radha Madan Mohan Radha Mohan Radhe. Jayo Radha Madan Mohan Radha Madan Mohan Radhe. Jayo Radha Madan Mohan Radha Mohan Radhe. Jayo Mahaprabhu, Jayo Mahaprabhu, Jayo Mahaprabhu, Jayo Mahaprabhu, Jayo Jayo Mahaprabhu, Jayo Mahaprabhu, Jayo Mahaprabhu, Jayo Mahaprabhu, Jayo Mahaprabhu, Jayo Prabhu, Jayo Mahaprabhu, Jayo Mahaprabhu, Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha, Jayo Narahari, Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha, Jayo Narahari, Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha Narahari, Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha, Jayo 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 Narahari. Jayo Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Jayo Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Jayo Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Jayo Jayo Prabhupada, Jayo 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 Gurudev, 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 Jayo Jayo Gurudev, Jayo Jayo Gurudev, 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 Jayo Jayo Gurudev, Jayo Jayo Gurudev, 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 Jayo Jayo Gurudev, Jayo Jayo Gurudev, Gurudev, Jayo Jayo Gurudev, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaura Hari Bol. श्रील प्रभुपाद गुरु पूजा की जय, हरि नाम संकीर्तनम की जय.
जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमती स्वामी ग्रहशील अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमती स्वामी ग्रहशील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर गोस्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय. श्री श्री राधा मदन मोहन गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय. मायापुर नवदीप धाम की जय. ब्रजमंडल क्षेत्र की जय. पुरुषोत्तम जगन्नाथ क्षेत्र की जय. भक्ति देव वृंद देव तुलसी महारानी की जय. गंगामाई जमुनामाई की जय. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. All glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Itai Gaura Premanande Hari. So we'll just sing the prasadam prayers together. Sharira vidyajal jadendriya kaheka jive fele vishaya sagare taramadye jivhayati lobhomaya sudurmati ताके जेटा कठिन संसारे कृष्णा बड़ा दयामय करिबारे जिह्वा जय स्वप्रसाद अन्न दिलो भाई से अन्नमृत पाओ राधा कृष्ण गुण गाओ प्रेमे डाको श्री चैतन्य नीताय एक दिन शांतिपुरे प्रभु अद्वैत तेरा घरे दुई प्रभु भोजने बसिलो शाक कोरी आस्वादन प्रभु बोले भक्तगण ऐशा कृष्ण आस्वादिलो हेनो शाक आस्वादने कृष्ण प्रेम ऐसे माने से प्रेमे करो आस्वादना जड़ बुद्धि परिहारी प्रसाद भोजन कोरी हरि हरि बोलो सर्वजना हरि हरि बोलो सर्वजना महाप्रसादे गोविंदे नाम ब्राह्मण वैष्णवे स्वल्प पुण्यवतां राजन् विश्वासो निवजायते प्रसादे सर्व दुःखानां हानिरस्य उपजायते प्रसन्न चेतसो ह्याशु बुद्धि पर्यवतिष्ठते। भगवत श्री महाप्रसादम की जय। For the cooks. For the cooks. Hansapriya, today's prasadam is prepared by Hansapriya Mataji. Hare Krishna. Who are the cleaners? Who are the cleaners? Anonymous cleaners. Okay.
Thank you for those who have joined us online. Thank you very much for joining us. That ends our program for today. We will again be going live tomorrow starting at 4 p.m. US Pacific time. Thank you. Hare Krishna.